now lying in a disorganized maze throughout the room. Through the next weeks, as I prayed, I realized that the room was flying, a symbol of transcendence, that the door was open, that my friend in the room was actually God, that God was now pushing the furniture out the open door, and to my horror, that God was actually trying to push me out the door. "Ah," said my spiritual director, "so God is not afraid to push the old man out the door." I ignored his comment. Grasping the meaning of the furniture became a contemplative odyssey for me. The symbol had layers of meaning. One transformative discovery I made was that the furniture symbolized my self-concept, my judgments of myself, the labels I gave myself or allowed others to give me, my self-analysis. It's the mind's job to make judgments. After everything we say or do, our mind says, "That was smart," or "Why did I say that?" or "What is she going to think about me now?" God was saying to me, "Out the door with it all. I have no use for it. It has no real meaning. It is confining both of us in a box. It is prohibiting our relationship from developing." With the furniture gone, I had somehow managed to keep God from throwing me out the door, since I didn't trust God enough to let him do that. The room was empty. Only God and I were left in the room, and I bowed before him. We were no longer separated by my mental constructs and judgments. As I remained in God's presence, I kept dropping the analysis and thoughts as they emerged, returning to a simple receptive awareness. In this program, we seek to address the single most important question for the Christian today: how do I find God? When our souls are thirsty for the spiritual, how do we find the time to contemplate? And more importantly, what do we do during that time? How do we discover the furniture that is cluttering our souls? What happens when God asks us to let go of what is most dear to us? Does the ancient mystical tradition of the Church mean anything today in a world so quickly changing? What do we do when praying seems tacked on to our life? What happens when we have no time for contemplative prayer? What are the paths to inner peace when our hearts need healing? How do we deal with fragmented or obsessive thinking? How do we hold on to a foundational experience of God's self-revelation to us? Can we truly hear God speaking to us, calling us by name? How do we find peace? How do we keep still? St. Paul once said, "For to me, living is Christ." However, what was for Paul a dynamic force for change, a powerhouse of transformation, has been in our day too often tamed and comfortably stowed away in a closet. Yes, I am Catholic, people will say. You'll see me at Mass. I'll comment on church issues based on a secular newspaper article. I take my kids to CCD, and before Christmas we have an Advent wreath on the kitchen table. At his birth, the Son of God burst into history as a torrent of love to save us from sin and death, so that the whole universe would converge in the heart of the Trinitarian God, that heart which we now call our home. How could all of this have been reduced to an Advent wreath and comments on religious issues? What happened to the bold teaching of the Apostle Paul? I have become Christ. I have become Christ for you, so that you can see him, so you can hear him, so you can become Christ yourself. Grow, Paul seems to say, stretch, practice, learn, change, mature. As Catholics, we have a long-kept secret that